This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
William Ramsey, it's been a long time actually. I think maybe even about a year since we've talked. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? How was your Christmas?
It was good. I'm interested to see what's going to break loose in the new year. Not going to lie. Do you have any predictions for us?
I think it's just going to be more chaos and trouble, so I'm not really that positive. So, how about you?
I have no idea. You know, I spoke with a guest recently and they were talking about how the pendulum swings, and right now we're super, super far left and we'll gradually head to like super, super far right. And I don't know, it's just like a pattern kind of throughout time. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, it portends to be very interesting. Like, I mean, I think that I'll be surprised if Trump even gets into office. Like, he's got
really
20 more days. Yeah, so try to kill him at least twice that we know. So who knows? Next one will be like a truck bomb or something like that.
Right?
I think they're scared. I think they're scared of all the crimes and stuff that they've done. There might actually be accountability this time because he seems angry. So it may not be a peaceful transference of power. So we'll see.
Have to see. Well, I actually have been kind of looking into something recently, and I think you might actually know about it. I first discovered Dave McGowan from looking into the Laurel Canyon, and I read Strange Scenes from the Canyon. And then I've recently kind of been diving into one of his other books, which is Programmed to Kill. And I'm sure you're familiar with that one. Have you ever read it?
I've read it many times. I read it again. I've done a show on it. So I did a show on Programmed to Kill with Tom and Brett of Sab Cinema. So we kind of reviewed it. So I would say I'm very familiar with it. It's a seminal book. It's a very important book. When you think about it, from 2004, this is kind of the beginnings of the internet, what he achieved and what he was able to compile for me is extraordinary.
And I think that a lot of times we get stuck on like the serial killer aspect of it, but there's like 4 or 5 chapters in the beginning when he breaks down all these pedophile rings and like the Belgian Beast, I think is what they called him, Marc Dutroux, and he had all those little girls like buried all over his property and stuff. Those are the kind of things that people really don't even know about.
They don't know how dark it was. The Dutroux was very, very dark. I mean, that's an incredible story. I've interviewed people from Belgium about that, and there was actually a massive cover-up, so much like the scandal that happened in Omaha, Nebraska, that was covered by a couple of journalists. But this is like, not only were they trafficking kids, and Dutroux was networked, but they're like kids who died in dungeons and stuff. But it went through the whole system in Belgium. Like, it reached to the top and implicated a lot of landed gentry, like people who were the aristocracy there. But then when he got caught, like 25 people around him died. So it was clearly a pretty intense cover-up as well. But yeah, super dark.
And so what did you think? I know you've talked about the smiley face killers a lot. What did you think after it started getting into some of the more well-known serial killers, the Gacy and the Dahmer and the Bundy? So a lot of the crimes that have been attributed to them don't even make sense for them to have committed the crime. And a lot of the Ted Bundy victims are like smiley face victims. They found out they've been held somewhere for like a week and tortured, and then they're drained of blood, and then their bodies just pop up somewhere else. And then there was one of the Gacy victims that turned up in a river or something like that.
The last 4 Gacy victims were all disposed of in southern Chicago in a river. So very much like the Atlanta child murders, by the way.
What do you think? Like, could it be possible for the whole smiley face thing to have gone back even further than we can imagine? Like,
yes.
In some of these victims that they put on these serial killers, Ted Bundy, Gacy, I don't even think they did it. Like, some of them, they weren't even in town. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it's an interesting thing. Gacy was clearly traveling around. One of the people who was going to be a victim who survived Gacy said that he was in the house and saw a door open, so it wasn't Gacy. So somebody else had to have known. And Gacy was networked. There was these very uncomfortable connections between himself and they call it the Candyman, and the Clown was the documentary. But the Candyman in Houston, Texas, who was part of this pedophile network, he was connected between a guy whose name I can't remember now, between him
Philip
and
Paskey.
Thank you, Paskey. Pasdhke or something like that, who worked for Bundy, and also one of the employees of Bundy went on to become known as the Ripper Crew. So he was another, his name was Getz or Goetz, who was like a crew going around abducting women and torturing them in the most horrible way imaginable. Definitely a Satanist, which they conveniently cover up. So I think some of the people who are attributed to Gacy, I think Gacy was politically connected. He was he's an alderman. He was going to all kinds of JCs and all kinds of like social groups. So I think that there might have been other people involved. It would totally make sense, but he just took the fall.
So I recently listened to The Clown and the Candyman, and I had no idea about this Dean Coral guy that was involved with all the gosh, what was his name? John David Norman or something like that.
Yeah, the Genesis group or something. Pegasus group, I think it was called.
So it's all like interwoven like a web. There was like Dean Coral, then there was a guy in the documentary, she called it the first pedophile island or something like that.
Right, yeah.
And I think his last name was Sherman, or I can't remember. And then this John David Norman guy and Philip Paskey. And when you put all of those pieces together, it's too much. And I don't know why we never took them at their word. Like Gacy used to say, there's other people involved. Bundy used to say, there's other people involved. And we were just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. There's other people involved.
I think that it's the same kind of phenomenon that happened with Berkowitz. Is like you have the subject, there's this big panic within the local community. Somebody gets caught, and then it's done. And so they have a clean-cut case. So it's a lot easier for the police, I think, and the authorities to just attribute it to one person and move forward than saying it's a whole network and trying to wrap it up with a huge network. And I think that's what happened with the Franklin cover-up, too. This is a massive network. And I think McGowan keyed into that earlier, and there's a really good book that came out recently that's very harrowing, and I think it's kind of an adjunct to Program to Kill. It's called I Have the Chicken Hawk. I Have the Chicken Hawk. Have you heard of that?
No, who's it by?
Well, I don't know his real name, but I can't remember his alias, but it's let me see if I can find it. But it's like basically going over. It's like McGowan's book, but more detail of these networked pedophile groups.
Oh my god!
Yeah, no, Simon Dovey, Dovey.
And you read really this whole thing?
I skimmed it, but let me see if I wish I could pull it up. Maybe you could pull it up. It's interesting because it's basically like a flow chart of these it kind of goes into the theme of what we've been talking about.
Let me see if I can find it.
Because it shows these little boxes and flow chart, like I don't know what kind of diagram it is. I don't think it's a Venn diagram, but it just shows how they're all overlapping and connected. Much like that Norman guy was. Norman was like pre-internet, he was like a collector, right? So he's had this kind of collector-keeper thing of like the young boys and the names and the pass cards and all this stuff.
Let me see if I can share. I just found
I Have the Chicken Hawk.
And it looks like I found it on
that's it, yeah.
Amazon. And it's got like this little web going
just shows
all
these webs of connections, yeah. And on mine it has really good reviews, like 4.5, but you'll just see the different names.
So what are your thoughts on like Dahmer?
Connected, he was an operative. He was well known within the kind of gay community. So I think that whether he was doing it with other people is an open question, but he was definitely moving around. It's kind of interesting because he got kicked out of the gay clubs in Milwaukee and ended up in Chicago, probably at this man's club in the gay clubs that Barack Obama is a member of.
Oh
Yeah, so you can't
my God.
Yeah, you can look up the Man's Country stories. Pretty disturbing. But yeah.
Well, and I just actually was covering a little something about Jeffrey Dahmer, and the topic came up that while he was in Germany, there was people going missing and weird stuff with that too. So I don't know.
Somebody's tied him to murders in Florida as well. So he may not. And Gacy, I don't think he had all his murders. He was traveling around. There's a really good show, I forgot the name of the YouTube channel, but there's a guy who was a potential Gacy victim in Tennessee. So Gacy would take road trips and try to find victims too with his standard MO. He would bring like one luggage full of porn, another luggage with the like BDSM stuff, and do the same techniques like Coral did, right? So he learned directly from Coral, hey, do you want to try on these handcuffs? Hey, it's a joke. You can get out of it. And then they were done. So,
and even in that documentary, The Clown and the Candyman, she does a great job of connecting everything together, especially with the handcuff trick and why would those two killers know the same handcuff trick, quote unquote. But I recently just found out about Dean Coral, and I wonder why he's not made a bigger deal out of.
It's a good question. I think that is a huge bunch of like deaths, like all of them, and
like
he was
28.
that one too. Yeah, and he had these two kids working for him, and they confessed. There's like videos of them together. So it's it's a super disturbing story, and just the connections to this stuff. Like, where else is it happening? And how do you attribute these abductions? And then is this the predicate to the smiley face killings? Because how similar are those victims to the victims of the SFK? Young men, college age, right? So instead of like maybe they're doing some international thing. And there's like a psychic I had on my most recent book, and she says they are kind of, in whatever she received, how much you want to take it as with a grain of salt, but she says they're being collected, they're being filmed, much like these guys are being filmed, or I think there was film maybe in connection with some of them. But like she thinks that's part of this whole phenomenon, is this kind of abducted, kept for a while, right, and then disposed of, like really bad, really dark.
So they're making snuff films.
Yeah, that's what she said.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense, right? So go select, and it's where's the most vulnerable place? A dude walking alone after drinking at a bar, after maybe he got drugged with somebody in there or something, or there's a process. But the stories are every story's kind of the same, sadly, about the smiley face killers. Young guy, half of them are probably gay, at a gay bar, acts strange, disappears, found in river, and it's still happening, like a lot in Austin, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I was gonna say I keep seeing them popping up randomly, and I'll be like, "Oh, I bet William has seen this one. This is definitely."
It's hard to keep up.
Face.
Like it would be literally be a full-time job.
Yeah,
like,
no kidding.
Yeah.
But that's why I think like some of these victims, like the Gacy victims, and even some of the Bundy victims, that were held for a long time, and then they turned up later, and Gacy, 5 of them in the river. Well, after they put Bundy away, like people still kept going missing and bodies kept turning up, and then they would blame it on the Green River killer, or it was the next killer. But honestly, it could be the same group of killers since.
Dear Traction, Toyota has 22 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive to grip every twist and every turn. Come rain, slick, sleet, or snow, leaves, mud, gravel, or sharp turns. Tackle the trails in the nimble RAV4. Drive steady in the all-hybrid Camry with all-wheel drive available on every trim. Or turn up the traction in the beefed-up Tundra with available four-wheel drive. Find those wheels at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Dear Winter, Toyota can't get enough of you. Because Toyota's got 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. And that's more than any other auto brand. From the versatile RAV4 to the svelte Crown, the sleek Camry all-wheel drive, the Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive, the rugged Tacoma, the tenacious Tundra, and the spacious Grand Highlander with all-wheel drive to keep you and yours safe. Hey, you bring the action, we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, Let's go places. Based on manufacturer's websites as of 10/20/24.
It's the beginning, like I'm talking Zodiac, I'm talking, Manson, Son of Sam, all of them.
You're right. I mean, that's how scary it is. And I think, like I said, it's convenient for the police, just like it's convenient for the authorities to say these, stage drownings are accidents, right? It's they're looking for a convenient way out. They don't want to do the hard work or actually do the thing and actually go, hey, this might be networked type of people. I mean, they did it in the kind of the Ripper crew out of Chicago. This guy, Getz, who was worked for Bundy. They actually arrested all the people surrounding him. And but sometimes they do get the whole group, but I think, some of these are working groups. There was another guy that I did a research who was a gay serial killer, and the book was by McDonough. His name was Kraft. There's another kind of guy like Coral who isn't emphasized. You almost never hear about this guy. Los Angeles, guess how many victims they think he had attributed to him? 100.
100 victims, you're
100
kidding.
victims, and then McDonough's like, yeah, there's no way he could have done it alone, because, and this is kind of like a process of thinking about the smiley face killers, that's why I interviewed him, but he couldn't have done it alone because there was one where the victim was tossed from a moving car, so how could somebody be driving, or
right?
So it's like this doesn't make sense. And the same thing happened with another gay serial killer. His name was Eiler in the Midwest, kind of almost like Jeffrey Dahmer. Eiler, Ayler. He was released to kill. That was the name of the book by Coleridge. And she said he probably was working with somebody else, and the filming and keeping and the BDSM and all that. Those elements are all there,
Shut up.
Yeah, Eiler.
Wow. And then there's the Herb Baumeister.
Baumeister, yeah, good. Yeah.
That Burdella guy.
Burdella, yeah, that's the same thing. They were keeping people, right? Torture.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no,
so it's like they're getting trained from on high, and it's just trickling down into all these different networks.
Right, Heidnik, right? Heidnik is in.
Yes.
Is in Program to Kill. Also in and out of mental institutions, just like what was his name? Henry Lee Lucas, right? So Henry Lee Lucas.
Otis Toole, yeah.
Otis Toole, yeah. Ottis, Otis Toole, who's a very scary guy. The videos of that guy online, if you saw him walking down the street, you would cross the street. Jeez.
Yeah, no kidding.
Completely crazy looking.
And his family was Satanists who dressed him up like a girl when he was a kid, and
so traumatized from the very beginning. It's really Geck. Robin Geck was the name of the Ripper killer. That was his name.
Oh, okay.
He was associated with he was in Program to Kill. Is associated with Bundy. Gecht. But yeah, I mean, and a Satanist too, like a Stone Cold Satanist.
Ted Bundy actually, after he was sentenced to death, ended up in the cell right next to Toole. It's just
so
William.
They know each other too. I've done a thing on Schroeder, who was the thing, and he compared himself to Bundy. And Bundy had a suspicious background. There's researchers who said he was part of some kind of dark group in the Washington area, and people have alleged this, and it's just so strange. The girl who wrote about him knew him,
Anne Rule.
Yeah, Anne Rule. Worked.
She's something. She's also the first one that gave his name to the police. She's also friends with two of the victims. She also attended some kind of conference that they were having about all these missing girls, but they didn't know it was Ted yet. And then all of a sudden she goes to this conference, and a couple days later she gives his name over to the Ted Squad is what they called it. And I don't know, Anne Rule actually pops up a lot in the Ted Bundy story, and then she wrote that book, I think it's called The Stranger Beside Me, and she made herself and Ted famous in the process, so I don't know.
Cashed in. I mean, there's weird connections like that in these serial killers. Catherine Ramsland becomes friends with Dennis Rader and writes the book about him. She's a PhD student, makes a lot of money, sells a lot of books, becomes famous. Who's one of her students? It's the guy who killed all the people in Moscow, Idaho. Was literally one of her. Yeah, the Moscow, Idaho killer studied under Ramsland, criminology.
Wow.
Yeah. No, there's a direct connection between Catherine. What was his name? Ramsland. I forgot his name now. It's Schroeder. So he has, I think, a German last name.
The serial killer?
Yeah, the guy who killed the 4 women, the college-age people in Idaho. The Idaho 4. Koberger. Koberger studied under Ramsland, yeah.
So,
Brian
do you
Koberger.
think that there are, because I've asked myself this question, do you think that there are authentic grassroots serial killers among us? Or do you think that this has all been sensationalized and it's networks and it's cover-ups and it's all... I mean, we know about the infamous serial killers, but could there be also an equal amount of like grassroots, just crazy, psychopathic human beings out there that just want to kill other people?
I think it's a mix. I think some of these guys are working together, and they're only one who gets caught. And I think that there are that one guy, Little, who's an African American guy who like had an incredible body count, probably just hated women. So I think that they're mixed, and I do think that some of these people are programmed to kill. I think that they're clearly the products of the stuff. One of the interesting things in this book is he mentions this Narut guy that's not very well talked about, not often talked about, Narut, who kind of spilled the beans in 1975. He was in Europe, and he's saying, like, we are the ONI, the Office of Naval Intelligence, is training guys to become program killers and then distribute them through the embassy, places, through embassies in the U.S. kind of network or U.S. empire network to carry out contract killings. A lot of them have criminal records, and it's all over the media. Like it's not like a story. It's a story that they don't talk about. It was covered up and then they denied it. But that paper does exist. And I think that it just shows that there's programs to create this programmed killer, like to dissociate people and control them. And that's so many of these guys have come out of the Phoenix program, are connected to the Free Phoenix program or something else, Shawcross. Heidnik was part of this weird dark stuff. So it's hard to say. Mullins was these guys who were in the Santa Cruz area. I think it was
right.
There were 3 guys, and 2 of them were really strange and had been exposed to large doses of LSD, and they were next to each other. So Ed Kemper and Mullins and this other guy were all next to each other, and under the aegis of a lot of MK, this guy Lund, Lunde, who's mentioned in Program to Kill, who's a big wig kind of behavioral science guy out of Stanford. And for their trials, they were kept, I think, in San Jose or something away from Santa Cruz. So they're like right next to this whole epicenter of all these other people who, got out of jail, or the guys from the Symbionese Liberation Army, which is 1974. Manson's not 69. So they're all around this area. So there is this weird, and I've done shows like Vronsky where there's clearly a peak of serial killers that dropped off. It's inexplicable, but one of the ways you can explain it, there's a deduction you make, is that they're connected to these programs, is that a lot of these guys have been literally programmed to kill.
Well, what do you think about, so the ones that you're talking about that were going down in the Santa Cruz area, it was the same time that kind of in the San Francisco area, they couldn't figure out who the Zodiac was, right? And the Zodiac was running crazy in San Francisco. What do you think about the theory that, like, someone like Michael Aquino or Michael Aquino could have been the Zodiac or working with multiple other people to do these?
I think it's pretty good. There's clearly an occulted element there. Like, I mean, I can see that markers of the face, the targeting symbol, the letters that are sent out, the smiley face, cross skull and crossbone letters that are sent out, the connection to some of the attorney who they reached out and talked to is very sophisticated. Like, this isn't something. So it implies a network also of like maybe an initiatory thing, much like the Sons of Sam. People have made correlations between the Sons of Sam and the Zodiac is like more of a team effort. And I think that it's very evident that the Son of Sam, it wasn't just Berkowitz. He can't talk, but it's pretty clear that the witnesses are seeing different people. The first-hand witnesses aren't seeing a guy that matches Berkowitz's thing. So I do think that there is something like that. There's an interesting kind of conversation between people, the Temple of Set and the head of the Order of Nine Angles, where he's saying, like, you guys sit around and decide to do hits. And I think that it's part of the larger program to kill motif, which is the politics is to create social confusion and chaos in society. And that people were freaked out by the Son of Sam. Like, at that time, New York City was like stuck in a crime wave, but everybody's focused on these random killings, right? So it's created this massive fear and dread, which is like one of the impacts. Like, they say that right at the beginning of it. McGowan mentions this guy, Paul Vidier, which is painted fear the most useful tools. And what does the Zodiac do? Maximizes fear, right? The fear of, like, that's what people fear the most, is an unexpected, instantaneous death. So, like, if death is right around the corner, that's what people, like, even if you say you're going to die in 6 months, people won't freak out as much. But if they think that Osama bin Laden's going to jump out of a bush and stab you to death, they get all worked up. Much like 10/7, really strange. So you see these weird comedy events, 7/7, 10/7, 9/11.
Well,
where they all have the same component, like you're going to get immediately killed by Hamas or all that. So you see the psychological operation aspect of all this.
And there's so many layers to it too, because with the Zodiac, you had all these people trying to cipher codes, and it was almost like they made a game out of it. Yeah. They would turn on the TV, try to decipher the Zodiac's new letter and the new code, and they literally made a soap opera out of the Zodiac. Like, it was kind of sensationalized, though, to the max.
It's a really good point. You use that word game because it comes up in a lot of cult kind of environments where they're playing games. And it's almost like, the Finders was the game caller, the head of the Finders, which is a cult involving many more people than it's publicized, many more important people, but it was pre kind of internet. So it doesn't have the same kind of impact because it happened, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and stuff like that. But the guy's head was called the game caller, so he was playing games with his people, and almost these heads of cults like play games with their own people, whether it's Jim Jones or Hubbard, or it's like this game playing thing. So I think that's part of it. It's part of kind of like the dynamic, I guess, is what you could put it.
Even with the Night Stalker, there's this game, the Satanist, and actually a lot of this goes back to Satanism anyways.
Right.
But
that's the cover of the book, by the way. I mean, it has this very harrowing picture, but it's basically of a satanic crime where a guy had a pentagram carved into his chest. That's the cover of Program to Kill. And there used to actually be, there was a woman who worked in the San Francisco Police, PD, who studied satanic crimes. Like, they were happening all over the Bay Area. So there's all kinds of crimes that happen around the Bay Area that never hit the news and weren't attributed to this. So there was definitely this upsurge in occult crimes around that time, late 60s and 70s.
Well, what a time to be alive, because you have the counterculture movement going on, and you have all this Laurel Canyon stuff with all these musicians. The Laurel Canyon body count is crazy high, too. It's like 100, 200 people from that. Wow. So, you have all this counterculture stuff going on, and then you have the introduction of the serial killer. And it's just, they hit us so hard in one decade. If you go back and look at it, you're like, how did people even make it out alive? Like,
right. No, good point. Super scary Operation Chaos type stuff. Like, it really is incredible because it didn't really happen as much. These kind of random events didn't happen in the 40s and 50s. So what happened, right? And that's kind of what people have to figure out. Like, so many of these guys did massive amounts of drugs, LSD and stuff. There's all that element to these people. And dissociative states. Like, I mean, that's kind of interesting how prescient McGowan was. Is like his intro chapter is about dissociation, and he keyed into something that's very way ahead of his time. Again, like he keys into Estabrooks who really is the precursor to MK Ultra. Not a lot of people who talk about this mind control stuff hit Esther books. They don't emphasize Esther books enough as hypnosis and dissociation from the 30s, guys. Like, this is what, and we can go back to history of hypnotism through Rasputin and Mesmer and all these other guys who were practicing it back in the 19th century. But this guy, Esterbrook, was very well networked. Like, he had conversation with J. Edgar Hoover and all this stuff in the 30s. So when you see pictures of J. Edgar Hoover in the 60s, he's well aware of all of this crazy mind control stuff. And even like McGowan talks about Lee Harvey Oswald as a mind control subject, and they all fit this weird thing. Like, Lee Harvey Oswald was in a hospital for like a month or two for a sexually transmitted disease. That was what they put on his file. When has anybody ever heard of somebody being in a hospital for that long for an STD in the 60s or the 50s?
Right.
And he's very strange. Like, his life, he emulates, and it goes all the way up to the present, right? The second guy who tried to kill Trump, what was his name? It was
I can't even remember.
I can't remember it now. But that guy has this weird background where he's in like the North Shore of Oahu, but able to travel around, much like Oswald, where Oswald suspiciously has money to go to Switzerland, Finland, gets into Japan, gets into the Soviet Union, gets out, travels back. Like, it's so strange. His background.
Did you see? There's this picture floating around of Luigi, that guy who shot the.
Right, yeah.
And he's got like an outfit on that looks just like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right. They dressed up the both of them like that. The Oswald perp walk. Well, the cop is in the suit. Yeah.
So do you think he didn't get to choose his outfit?
I think they did it intentionally as an inside job.
I thought so too.
Absolutely. I mean, you can pull that picture up. It's astonishing. I don't think that's a mistake at all.
No way.
The first guy was Crooks, who didn't make it, and the second guy, I don't even remember his name now. What is his name? Oh, this guy has all the hallmarks of Ryan Ruth was his name. But the interesting thing, if you go back and look at David Chapman, right, the alleged killer of John Lennon, he was in and out of a hospital. He supposedly worked as an orderly at a hospital. So
did Jeffrey Dahmer.
Wow, crazy. This guy Ruth was like literally like a stone's throw, like 2 or 3 miles away from the hospital where Chapman worked at, and somehow gets these like the money. He's like late on child payments. He owes money to his ex-wife. He doesn't have a real job. He's making like little houses for people who are homeless. Probably not making a lot of money, somehow can afford to go to Palm Beach and wander around and then go to Ukraine. Like, he's in Ukraine. Like, hey, guys, like, let's support. He's got the whole government line down, too, which is, the Ukrainians have been oppressed and Zelensky's a freedom fighter. And he's out holding his banners like he's a tool of the government. And it's incredible. Like, this guy, he needs to be it's super suspicious. It fits all the Chapman kind of aspects.
Well, wasn't there was something about Sirhan too? Like, there was something weird with him.
Same thing. In the hospital 2 weeks, nobody knows why. Weird writings, automatic writings. Doesn't remember the shooting. The kill shot, according to Noguchi, came from behind RFK, not in front. And there's more bullets than were in the chamber of the gun. That Sirhan said. Sirhan's clearly seen going to gun ranges and things like that outside of his Southern California area. He was seen in Northern Cal. It's strange times. Weird people, the polka dotted dressed woman. Just all there's just so many suspicious things. All kinds of MK doctors and psychiatrists around Sirhan after his arrest, which is a real giveaway because they all around us. Same thing happened to Chapman, Patty Hearst. Like, Patty Hearst had like they brought out the big time CIA doctors, Jolly and West, Martin Orne, Singer. There's like a picture of them with F. Lee Bailey, like all together. Like, oh, this is a jolly bunch of people. No, these are all deep, like, hardcore, government agents, like government people who know. Charlie and West is in the strangest places of all times. So you get back to this kind of program to kill kind of mentality and all that stuff. And Patty Hearst is really a real interesting study in like thought reform, mind control. And that's why they were there, is because they put her into basically isolation thing and abused her, right? And so she goes from the supposed heiress with a lot of money to, I forgot what her chain did. It was Tanya or something like that. This revolutionary bank robber. Like, how does that happen? Are these guys sophisticated enough to make that happen? It makes you wonder, like, there was somebody else telling them what to do, you know?
Well, what do you think about, like, I know we've talked about it before, but we said Satanism is at the base of a lot of this stuff. And so, do you think that, let's say, for example, West Memphis 3, those kids really did that? Or do you think that they took the fall for it?
I think they were part of a larger network. And I think that there were more people at whatever they were doing in other places. I think that they were one of the kind of, in my opinion, is that they were probably some of the head people. And Jesse was the one who implicated them, but left other people out. I do believe there were other people involved in that stuff. They were networked, and I think they came from a family that were into, you know, black, whatever, occultism in a general sense. And the, like, his girlfriend at the time, that's like one of the weirdest things, is she's involved in that stuff too. And her family, like her aunt was involved in some kind of vampire thing about drinking blood in LA.
Oh my God.
And outside of LA. Yeah. So how are these going on? Like, this is in a completely different state. So I think that they were just of that ilk. But if you read through the court documents, Eccles and all these guys are traveling to Memphis. They live outside of Memphis, the city of. But they're talking to people in Memphis, and there's somebody they mention as Lucifer, who nobody's ever targeted. There was another guy who talked about the group, you know. And even the police were, like, making lists. There's lists in the police documents of, like, other members of the cult. Like, they're trying to figure out who these guys are networked with. So I think that there's a lot. And they used to go out to this place called Stonehenge. And it was groups of people. It wasn't just, like, those three. So who are the other members of the group, and why weren't they implicated? And that's another example of the police kind of getting their perp, and then just, like, they had enough evidence to get these guys arrested. And then they, you know, I think they were looking for other things, but they just didn't seem they had the incentive to, like, do a huge roundup. But they interviewed so many people. There's so many, like, interviews that aren't in these lame documentaries from HBO, which are really sham documentaries, in my opinion. But
well, you know how people get obsessed with Netflix documentaries and HBO documentaries, and by the time, let's just pick a random serial killer. Let's say you watch a Ted Bundy documentary. By the end of it, you're 100% convinced that he murdered upward of what they say is could be like 30, 40, 50. They don't even know, just like, you know, countless women, and they sell it to you in a way to where the case is closed, done, solved, no need to look any further here. And it's like that. It's true for any serial killer. They just sell you the story, and that's what you're made to believe. And when you really start looking into it and finding all these inconsistencies, if you were to just tell a random person, like, well, you know, I don't think Ted actually murdered all those girls, it's like, it's like blasphemous. Oh, how could you say that? You know, he killed all those people. It's so tragic and sad. They don't want to hear about, you know, Programmed to Kill.
No, they don't. They don't want to go that far. And I think you have to ask your question, why? Why do they just tag Berkowitz? Why don't they go into the process? Even though he's mentioned the process in one of his interviews, I think, in jail. So it's too disturbing, and the connections and the crimes that are all associated with these things, like, they want to keep it separate, you know. They don't want to see this big network. Much like Maury Exposed, right? There's this connection between all the way from East Coast to the West Coast with the death of Arliss Perry on October 12th, 1974. One of the interesting things of Programmed to Kill is for a guy who supposedly, I think he was an atheist, but McCowan, he's into all these dates and stuff, like the occult calendars. Crowley's mentioned, like he has a whole
like
section.
Crowley's birthday.
Yeah, he
you
gets
know,
it.
it's Yeah.
He mentions Quirley like 20 times or something like that, but he gets all of these dates and things like that in there, which are really something
Occult
else.
holidays, solstices,
On
and
March 21st, 1967, the spring equinox, Charles Mills Manson was released from prison. Like, so he gets all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which are real. I do believe, like, the death of Arliss Perry, it's not a mistake that it was on Quirley's birthday.
No, I don't either. So I spoke about it a little bit, how ritualistic it was. You know, she had the altar candle and all of, he actually, in the book, he links that one back to Lena LaBianca from the Manson, because they both had like a intricate carving, and people don't really know about Arliss that well, unless you were to read the book. People don't really know about that one, but I think they ended up, the suspect was someone who was in the Manson family, like a disciple that broke off or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. They call him Manson 2. It's been identified as Menser. This guy Menser was involved in the Cotton movie? What was that movie? Like the Raiden murder?
The Cotton Club or
Cotton
something?
Club murders, yeah.
Yeah.
Which overlaps with Roy Raiden, who's also kind of in that environment. Like New York at that time in the 70s was very dark. And there's a lot of dark stuff going on. But yeah, so I think that's true. In the Tate LaBianca murders, right, there was they shoved a fork in her. But they wrote war in a way that the W was almost like something like you'd see on the cover of Program to Kill, where it was a downward triangle and an upward triangle. And so that's the way when Arliss Perry was laid out, they took her pants, and so her legs were in a triangle, and they took her pants and made a downward triangle. So it's almost like a hexagram or something. And there's rumors about her that, I mean, you don't want to go. It's like that she was really on the altar. That's where she really was. And the police told the people she wasn't, so that they knew. It was like sometimes the police, when they see a crime scene, they get out false information. So if somebody really knew the crime, they know exactly how it was staged. So it was the ultimate act of like sacrilege. Rumor. That's a rumor.
I mean, it makes sense though. And I have this whole grand theory that was presented to me by someone else, and I just want to get your thoughts about it. So they say that serial killers could potentially be just characters. The man Ted Bundy and the character Ted Bundy could be two separate people. Like the character's name is Ted Bundy, but the real guy who's playing Ted Bundy his name is John or something like that. So you can't convict John of murder because Ted Bundy is the one who committed the crime.
All right.
And so the theory is that potentially a lot of these serial killer victims aren't real at all, and they're all characters in this massive grand theatrical play. That's what are your thoughts on that? Because I think real people die as a result of whatever type of project that they're running on us. I do think that innocent people die, and they're not just all characters.
I've never heard that, honestly. I've always thought that they were real, so I would have to look into that. I'll keep my eye out. But I've read a lot of these details. I've done tons of interviews on Bundy and all these guys. Creech, I just did one on Thomas Creech, another really strange guy around this era, who's a hitman and a Satanist who knew LeVay, like Richard Ramirez. But the deaths all seem to be real. It's not like, it would be incredible if the whole story was just one big fiction and nobody really died, and that they faked everything on certain of these people's deaths. Because it seems like there's like family members and stuff like that. Like for sure, these guys died in the West Memphis 3. Like that's for sure. Like their parents are at the trials and everything like that. So it would be incredible. It would.
Would you entertain that maybe even some of them could have been fake?
I'm willing to entertain it. One of the interesting things is like what comes to mind is I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he says like a lot of those some of these people involved in some of these big events are crisis actors. So,
yeah.
Like Leanna Wen, like this woman who's coming out talking about even today about this bird flu nonsense. She's shown up at weird places.
Yeah,
like
what's
on
going
TV.
on with that, anyways?
It's just another psyop.
You think so?
Psyop, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The timing is incredible. Like, it's like right before the election, before the whole new administration shows up, they pull the stunt. But I don't think people are going to fall.
So
for
it
that
was
stuff
announced
again.
by a crisis actor.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
My opinion, yeah. Go look her up. Like, she showed up at least. It was either the Boston bombing or something like that. Like, some of these people are showing up at multiple different places, like on TV. Like, are they state assets or what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So these are fake. Like, I think some of these people are stone cold fakes. They just dredge them out or pay for them and train them. And I don't, so many of these people like are agents of influence. They're not real, authentic things. And so much in the old media really are agents of influence. Like, I was very naive, like thinking, oh, these people had normal careers and they took a journalism degree.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
these guys were brought up and trained and put in the right place and made to become agents of influence. Fake social media presence, everything's fake about them because they're being propped up by either a wealthy person or by the government. And there's a lot of them. Like, they surround Joe Rogan. Like, it's incredible. Like, whoa, you're surrounded by like really heavy intel, dark agents, dark propagandists, black propagandists. And that's really incredible because you see the movement from the traditional media to this kind of newer media, and it's scary.
Well, they actually promote Joe Rogan like a ton.
Why is he getting? Why is this natural? Is it because he's a good medium for their voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these I'm not going to name their names. People will know these names. They're very well known. But Joe Rogan gets promoted because he lets them use him as a kind of antenna for their ideas without questioning them much. That's very telling. How does Joe Rogan come in? Like, he's obviously very clever, but how does this guy become the number one podcaster? Like, I think is his background, but I've done a show called "There's Something Funny About Joe Rogan," and it's kind of like his close friends. There's a lot of occultism there.
Really?
Yeah. There's not that much of a separation between some of his friends and Damien Eccles.
What?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
William, you're killing me.
No, that guy who he just had on with the whole elf outfit, I can't even remember his name right now. He had this guy on I think it was called Midnight Climax was his show, and Damien Eccles is on there. He's promoting him, and then they had an interplay. Somebody sent it to me, and it's like, oh man, if he was unjustly committed, he should get some money and payout. Like, it was a sympathetic take on Eccles. And it's interesting, too, because Eccles, like, they did 2 hours of Eccles on Tim Pool, who's friends with Rogan. And they did the same thing. It was just a complete joke. I called it a colossal L in the culture war. And, gosh, I wish I could remember this guy's name. He's supposedly a comedian. But they also, Eccles is close friends with Amanda Knox. There's pictures of them together, and Amanda Knox was on Rogan, and Rogan didn't ask her any incisive questions. He just actually let her walk all over him. It's very interesting because he's not always passive. Sometimes he's like fights back and pushes back. But in that case, he was just like, oh yeah, you've been unjust. She was convicted of calumnia. She was convicted of the Italian version of defamation for throwing the black guy under the bus. Like, she was trying to like literally blame the black guy. And I don't think she's ever paid him. Yeah, so I mean, I've got pictures of Eccles, and I mean, all these characters have shown up. Like, Douglas is mentioned in this book in Program to Kill, and Eccles and Douglas and Berlinger and what's her face, Amanda Knox, all together. I call it the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
What?
Yes. Oh yeah. No, it's bad.
Oh
it's
my
so
god.
Bad. Yeah.
Well, what do you think about people like Alex Jones?
Right. I mean, there's a problem there too. Like, I'm telling you, these people are influence agents. What was the guy's name now? I'm just gonna like shoot. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's people who know more than me. There's a problem with Jones too. Like, so, I mean, it gets really dark. Like these are TV show. That's bothering me to figure out what this guy's name was. Midnight something. Maybe it's Midnight Special.
Was it on Joe Rogan?
The guy's name, I forgot. He did some show. It wasn't Midnight Climax. It was Midnight something else.
And it was a comedy show?
Supposedly.
You said supposedly.
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find his name. It was a recent guest. Duncan Trussell.
Ah, okay.
So Duncan Trussell was on December 25th for Christmas, but this guy did a show with Damien Eccles. He invited Damien Eccles on.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Besties.
Yeah. Duncan Trussell. Damien Eccles. He had him on a show, 2020. Midnight Gospel was the name. And then and he was on a show called Damien Eccles, aka Fishbowl Man.
So you got all these weirdos hanging out together, and then, anytime I tell somebody I have like a conspiracy theory podcast or something like that, they're like, oh, like Joe Rogan. Like, he's the staple.
He's the staple. Wow, because he's doing a terrible job.
Right.
I mean, the term conspiracy theory is just like a joke term. Come on. Like, nothing I talk about is theoretical. I do a lot of speculation and make connections, maybe. But, like, you can look all this stuff up. So why are people doing real investigative journalism? That's the real question. And why is the public accepting these talks like they're real investigative journalism when they're not? Like, where are the real investigative journalists? They're very few. And a lot of the ones who really get it, who are real investigative journalists, like the guy who did like Gary Webb recently, I think it was his death. Like, you get the worst. Like, they come after you if you're not part of the real group. Like, whoa. Like, it can be, you're alone. Like, because most of these other people, they're covered. Like, for example, I'll just use one example who's been on Rogan. Ben Shapiro, his best friend or his buddy is Netanyahu, right? So these guys are connected. They're going to tell the story of 10/7 like it wasn't a black op.
I mean, it's dangerous, too, because they're so influential to so many people. And I can't
believe people trust these guys. I'm sorry.
I know. They even put, like, their health and every aspect of their life in the hands of these people. I don't know.
Joe Rogan has a health thing, and he's like an influencer. I know. He's a macho guy, and he does MMA, and so this is almost like the Hugh Hefner in a way of our generation. Like, Hugh Hefner was the kind of model. Like, oh, he's got the babes, and there's good-looking chicks, and we're living the lifestyle. I think that he was a great influencer. Tied to Kinsey, which is very disturbing, with a tie to Crowley. So then you have Rogan, like, pictured, doing the cornudo with the grandson of Anton or whatever. And a big-time UFO exponent, like, right behind him is the triangle with the UFO, which is telling you a cultural thing. So he's on board with that psyop. I've done shows on that.
I don't believe in the UFO thing. I don't think that's just the most bizarre stuff that I've seen people start getting on board with.
Where's the proof?
Right.
Show me a UFO. Every picture they bring up, or the guy who was also on Rogan from Blink 182, DeLong, like, he showed like a frisbee on there, like it was real. Like, I'm not falling for this. Come on. You're crazy. This is the new religion, though. This is the new religion they're promoting, and Rogan's on board with the whole like DMT and ayahuasca stuff. This is the new drug era. So why is that out there? Why is he the most popular? I mean, the guy's worth $1 billion. This is incredible.
And I used to watch him on Fear Factor, and I thought he was just a stupid guy who hosted like TV shows, Now he's like one of the most influential people on the planet.
He is the most influential. He and the Bro podcast helped get Trump over the finish line. Like, all those guys, J.D. Vance, who I don't even know what his real name is, and Trump were on those shows. It was Rogan, Dylan, and Theo Vaughn, like very influential shows. Those are what pushed kind of the men, like, oh, we got to get out there, because what's her face wouldn't go on those shows. She can't really talk extemporaneously anyway. But
at the UPS store, we have the key to unlock the world of possibilities, because we'll sign for your packages and protect them from porch pirates. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, this was changed world history in a lot of ways. It's unbelievable. Influenced world history. These kind of podcasts with not a lot of, well, I mean, like I said, it's just the same thing we're talking about. How much influence is behind the scene influencing these guys?
Yeah, and it's like you said, there's not a lot of independent journalism out there. I would consider myself to be at least trying to some degree to put some pieces together.
Me too.
And before we wrap up, because I know we've been on for about an hour, I do have to ask you one more thing about Program to Kill that I'm curious about. And it is the chapter on John Bonet. So recently, John Ramsey has come out and he said there's this new break in the case and they got new evidence, and he's going on all these talk shows to talk about it. And I think you and I would both agree that they're never going to solve that, because we know what really happened to John Bonet.
Yeah, I think it was Cyril Wecht said that she was being abused. Like, there was evidence to arrest right there. So how does that key into like some kind of murder outside of the family? What's going on? So I have a lot of problems with that case. The thing is that he's one of the things about McGowan and why he will stand the test of time is that his analysis is almost always right. Like the keying into Estabrooks and seeing in this darker pattern of going on, this dissociative states and this Operation Chaos and all these CIA doctors and the questions. Like, I think that he was right about John Bonet too. And there's really, I mean, they have this new documentary on Netflix too, right? And it's like
the one that's blaming the brother.
Yeah, well, no, I think that one they got sued. That was a different one. There's a more recent one that just came out, but I don't know the outcome.
It might be I think I might have saw it actually on HBO or something like that. And yeah, they always point it outside the family, right? Or the little brother did it, or like something ridiculous like that. But it's like, was the little brother raping her? Really? That's because it's like you said, the I guess it was the autopsy report. There was clear signs of sexual abuse. So, I mean, are they going to tie that to the little brother? It just doesn't, it never makes sense. None of the pieces add up.
Dude, Cyril Wecht was sadly he passed away, but he did such great work, even on the Smiley Face Killers too, like one of the victims. It was Dakota James, because was in Pittsburgh, but another guy who got it right all the time, like super bright guy. Like, it's really hard to get a JD or like pass the bar and stuff, but he had a bar degree and a medical degree. But like you have to take him kind of face value. So all this other propaganda and all this other strange stuff, you have questions about it. What's your take on John Bonet?
Well, I think that her parents were involved in some crazy stuff. I mean, with the Access Graphics thing and John Ramsey, he got, a huge bonus for Christmas, and then I don't know, the handwriting matches Patsy and their friends, the Whites, they're into some weird stuff, and they had their kids like in these weird pageant circles and stuff. And the pageant thing on its own is enough for me to think there was something else going on, because if you actually go and look, there are no record of those pageants ever existing outside of John Bonet. So it's like this underground pageant world stuff and like the kiddie porn stuff. And the Wonderland raids, like a couple of people turned up with pictures of John Bonet during the Wonderland
Really?
raids.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I'm telling you, William, it goes deep, and like for them to keep dredging it up and like, oh, John Ramsey's back in the news again because they've got this break in the case. It's like they're never gonna solve that. They're just like bringing it up to remind you, oh, look at this little girl and it's unsolved, and I don't even know. It's just a big joke, a big game, like I said before.
But it's these networks, like we started off. McMartin was probably networked. There's some of those stories turn out to be true. And even I think McGowan mentions the tunnels. Ed Opperman interviewed that guy, Steiner. Mm-hmm. Like some of that stuff is verified, and crazy, weird stuff was going on. Weird magical hats. Like, and then it's like you get into trauma-based mind control and SRA, and it's like that they're traumatizing the kids.
Right.
And they've been proved. Like some of these, there was one. It was the Witch Hunt Narrative, right? By I can't remember the name, but the book. Like some of these have been verified. So like some of the stuff, like these child care things, were the opposite of care. Child uncare places. There was one in I think it was Fuster was his name.
Yeah, Frank Fuster.
Yeah, and
Country Walk babysitting.
Yeah, no, they they had the evidence. Like,
and they were
they'll deny it and call it satanic panic or something like that, or have some term.
But explain to me how the Country Walk babysitting service was a subsidiary of Walt Disney Company. Like, you can't tell me that's not by design,
It's really
so. But anyways, William, thanks so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And if you could just let the listeners know, if they haven't already, dove into William Ramsey Investigates. It's one of my favorite podcasts, but where can they find it?
You can find it anywhere, iTunes, Spotify. I've done a lot of shows on kind of mind control and things like that. I had a little carve out called the De-Hypno Program. And I cover a lot of the stuff. Like, this is real stuff, like Esther Brooks that's mentioned in this book. And some of these other cases. And I've got some kind of on my batter circles I'm trying to get out and that are on the subject. I think it's important to understand. And it goes all the way up to the present. This kind of guy tried to take a shot at Trump has all the indicators, and some of these other guys, this guy Luigi, whatever, it's very strange that somebody would take such a radical turn who had a very promising life. I mean, you are the valedictorian of your private school, so this is kind of like an elite thing. How does somebody go from that and goes through this behavior modification or behavioral change into? And I don't even know, how would you know that the CEO is walking out of a hotel at 7 a.m.
Right.
That's the thing that's like, why doesn't anybody ask that question? Like, I would be like, you would think the killer would be like, I'm going to get him because he's going to this meeting. I know he's going to be there at 4, so I'm going to wait outside this meeting or whatever. How does he know he's leaving at 7 o'clock? 7 a.m.? Anyway, so there's a lot of real questions. So a lot of the stuff, if you look deeper, it gets kind of disturbing. So you can look into that. It's William Ramsey Investigates. All my books are on Amazon, 5 books, and then you can also watch them for free on my Patreon, William Ramsey Investigates.
Well, thank you so much, William. I really appreciate it, and thanks to all the listeners out there. We will catch you on the next one.